Hey guys, welcome back to the ALGS channel. Hope you guys are all doing well and having a great day so far. Sorry for the late upload on this video because I actually uploaded this last night just to realize that Spotify was blaring the whole time and Ben Rector copyrighted my video. So we had to re-record it with all the topics again. And also sorry for the lack of uploads over the last couple of days. I think Hurricane Adila, however you pronounce her name, I really wasn't keeping track of her too much. Anyway, she came through, wiped our power out for a little bit, and it's just kind of been like, you know, a little wonky of trying to get a schedule figured out. And so finally, we're all set up, we're all back, and we're all good. So we do have a lot to discuss in today's video regarding some roster updates, roster changes, and then also Raven, the head coach of TSM, explaining some strategy update changes to ALGS champs for TSM, and honestly all the other teams as well. So if you guys want to stay up to date, all things Apex Legends esports related, of course you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Not gonna lie, man, I just love the channel. I don't tell the other guys, but I really like the channel. I think better than the original jmeyels channel at this point, because ALGS is just a lot more fun than Apex news at the moment. They just got to come out with something fun for Apex, otherwise competition is just going to be the way to go. Anyways, first off, let's talk about scrim results. Now, not only do we have individual scrim block sets, we now have an average point set for all the teams, so you can actually see, like, just in general, average best team. I'm actually shocked at who is number one, so we'll talk about that in just a second. August 30th, a couple days ago, it was TSM for one of their blocks. I think this was block 2. You could see some you know, wild cards here. Optic Gaming not in the top 5 as they have been lately. Aurora is playing but still don't have their visas, unfortunately. So those were a little bit of a little keynote here. TSM once again, August 30th, I think this was block 1. They were in first place again, looking very good for TSM. Dark Zero in second place. Optic Gaming back in the top 5 as we are used to seeing. And then we saw also there was another block here where Oxygen Esports was not doing good either. A little bit of a weird thing to see. Now the average did come out. Minus Tempo basically say scrims today. Now we do have another block to go over right after this. However, this average point does not include the set block of scrims that happened today. Okay, so just exclude the results we're about to get into. This was before the scrim results that happened today. Average points overall, TSM is actually in first. Despite having a really weak performance after the season 18 update, they've really turned things around. And voice crack, by the way, I'm leaving it in there. TSM has really done a great job, and you can see based upon this graph here, they've actually gone up 2 slots. So they were sitting, I think, in 3rd place, and Optic Gaming was in first. Now it's flip-flopped. Optic Gaming now in 3rd, tied with Dark Zero for 2nd, Dark Zero in 2nd, and TSM in 1st. No surprise here for the top 2, being that those guys finished first in both of the splits as well. Obviously, we expected this. Alliance in 4th place here, not too shocking as well, because they always do good in the group stages. NRG is in a good spot right now at 6th place, and so I'm very interested to see how this LAN goes on. Now, some of the surprises here, Oxygen, despite, I mean, technically it is pretty impressive still. 40 teams here, being in the top 20 is still something to talk about, I guess. Oxygen in 13th. FaZe, I guess I would have had these guys a little bit higher overall. But it's unfortunate to see. Another unfortunate thing is Aurora at 19th, and you don't even know if they're going to make it to land because of the visa issues as well. So it's just something we're going to have to watch and see how it progresses throughout the week. Obviously, Champs is coming up next week, so we will see how it all goes. Now, another set of scrims that went through. This was literally just a couple of days ago. Block 2 is about to start in literally a couple of hours, but Storm Point still hasn't been added to the rotation, so it looks like 6 more World's Edge games, unfortunately, that they're playing. But this was block 1 for September the 2nd. TSM once again in first. You love to see it, except finding their way back up into the top 3. Dojo, which I was really surprised, because Dojo, whenever they started these scrims, they were really popping off, looking good. Then they started kind of slacking off a bit, and now they're finding their way back to it all, so it's good to see. Also, you had Oxygen Esports still back in the top 5. Good to see those guys. And you could even see reps saying that ping was the problem all along. I mean, they've been doing so good since they landed, I think, in London, and they've been playing the scrims in London, like all in the same ping. So good out of TSM. I can't wait to see them play. It's going to be very interesting. However, we do need to talk about their strategy going into this. This is where we get into the bigger topics overall. So their head coach, strategy coach, named Raven. Obviously, you guys know Raven's probably the biggest asset that this roster has added, probably the whole time. I mean, honestly, I can't think of like this team getting drastically better since adding someone to their roster, you could argue maybe Evan. I mean, obviously Verhulst is such a good addition to their roster, but I feel like they were still good with Snipe down to some degree. But I think Raven really kind of took this roster to the next level as far as giving them some structure rather than just being 3 crackhead demons just being good at the game. Having that leadership, having the vocalization, having less emotions attached into the game, because I feel like to some degree everyone's going to be biased on their plays because they feel like they're making the right plays. Obviously the players are good enough of acknowledging when they make mistakes, but Raven's just been so good for this roster and really helped them a ton. Now, this is actually their worry, I guess, about strategy changes for all of these teams here. So number one, I thought it was interesting that Raven actually calls himself the best strategic coach in the world. Interested to see if you guys agree with that. And also, people are worried, how are they going to do it LAN? Obviously, his champs, what's the pressure like? And he just basically says, look, we got the best coach in the world, which is himself, not to boost his ego, he says. And then we got the best players in the world. We're ready for LAN. We've won LAN. We're not worried about this at all. So we're basically, they're just prepared to like no end, honestly. And then he talks about the strategy change. So recently, Apex Season 18, you guys may have known, got a little bit of a nerf in the loot department. And also, they got a little bit of a nerf in the ring console department. That's going to affect teams, especially that had drop zones like staging, that had a 97% drop rate of a ring console, which gave them a lot of information. So here's what Raven had to say about how they're having to adjust TSM strategy going into champs because of those changes. So he says the loot changes are a pretty big deal because some POIs had enough loot to not have to, for example, craft after looting their POI. So basically, sometimes you didn't really need to go to the crafting and get more stuff because the POIs were just good enough. They had good loot. So take Wall, for example, he says, which where TSM lands on Stormpoint. The whole theme of Wall, for example, was that you had enough loot where if you had zone near you, you could just play zone. Or if zone was really far, you could just play in a gatekeepy sort of way where you would still rotate to zone ahead of the edge teams, and you can hold them out with catalyst and sort of being like this impenetrable wall. But now that they've nerfed the loot and armors, here's their new strategy going into champs. And I think it's working, obviously, because you look at how well they've been doing in scrims. Now it means that we may have to take a detour from our POI to go craft a little and then have to spend more time crafting. And that's just one example. But I think this whole looting nerf hurts across the board. Unfortunately, you've also got POIs that are no longer honeypots, basically. And now these POIs are even stronger after the loot nerf, because basically you have, I think, Lightning Rod, one of like the best loot places. I think Lightning Rod has like a very saturated loot. Like I think it's known for having a lot of loot. I think I could be wrong. I'm not the biggest competitor, but I'm pretty sure I'm right in that. Anyways, now that these POIs have better loot, now that the loot's gotten nerfed, it's really given those people who have those POIs even stronger of a buff, because instead of teams coming out of POIs with similar loot, that way they can fight similarly, it's really left up to a lot more RNG, to where if you just got the luck of the draw and you didn't get the good loot, you're just probably going to die, because these pro players having a 50, 100, 200 armor more than you, it's a big deal, and it's really hard to win those. So now, obviously, that is the strategy change, is how are you going to focus and rewire your your thought process on looting and basically rotating early. When do you rotate? Do I need to loot before rotating? Do I need to go craft before rotating? How is it going to change? Obviously, you've seen teams get affected by this nerf. TSM got affected when season 18 happened. One thing about TSM, though, is that they adapt very, very well, and they are very good at adapting and very quick at adapting. And I think, honestly, they're looking very, very impeccable. They're looking great since the latest scrims in the last couple of weeks. So I'm pretty excited to see how well they're going to do at champs. And now we need to talk about a team that's not at champs, should have been at champs, we thought was going to be at champs, and a roster change that has happened. Elevate, obviously, you guys know, lost Stay Naughty. Stay Naughty was a good addition to the roster. We thought it may work out perfectly. Unfortunately, it did not. And at first, I thought that Stay Naughty was going to be the absolute puzzle piece for this roster. It just made sense on paper. Everything just seemed to make sense, because Stay Naughty was a very good cracked controller player. They needed a controller player, and it just seemed like, it was a squad filled of, people that no one wanted, right? Everybody was like, putting them to the side. And a lot of times they come together and they do a great job. I thought that was going to be Furia as well. Unfortunately, it was not the case. Stay Naughty decided to look for other options. E8 was stuck looking for a new third. E8 has now announced their new third. It is Shuby Tubi. Now, Shuby obviously was Madness's former teammate, and that's where you see Madness clapping. It kind of like, you know, this mutual respect, mutual rivalry, I think will happen now every time Shuby plays Madness, which I think Shuby's been teaming with Madness like literally since the start. So since this is happening now, I feel like this is going to just be a non-stop rivalry, seeing these guys play against each other in the most respectful way, and it's going to be very interesting to see as well. But I think Shuby's going to be a great addition to this roster for the E8 team. Hopefully they have some success. I would really like to see him at Champs. Really disappointed that we didn't see them this year, unfortunately. Also want to mention, just as we wrap the video up, got some roster updates and changes as well. This is coming from Davis Wave, looking for one with J Trips for the Pro League qualifiers. Don't forget, ALGS Champs is literally next week, and we really don't have that big of an off time. You look at games like Call of Duty, they finished, I think, in July. I think they finished their champs in June or July, and they are off until like January. I mean, they have like a 6-month off season. It's horrible. It is so long and so boring. And thankfully, we're finally getting at a stage where Apex itself is not that case. It's actually, you know, we're looking, I think, at Pro League qualifiers literally like a month or 2 months or whatever after champs is over. I think, hopefully, we'll see. But, you know, nonetheless, we should be pretty close to it. 3 or 4 months at the very most. I did hear some news, by the way. Take it for what you will. I've heard from 2 sources that there is going to be a big change to Apex, not in game, so not like a, you know, actual item being added, nothing like that, but like just the way that they run things. I don't know what that means. Like, is it a tournament? Is it you know, in-game tournaments? Is it, you know, the way they're doing ALGS next year? I've heard there's a really big change that is going to make literally everybody so happy, and it's probably the biggest change that they've done. Like I said, I've heard that from 2 sources. I don't know what that is. I could not get specifics, and you know, so since there was no specifics, I've heard it from 2 different sources. That's just that. My guess is maybe there's going to be, well, I will say this. I did hear from one source that it was specifically about regional tournaments. If you guys were not aware, South America was recently taken out of ALGS year 4 for whatever reason. I don't really know why they decided to do that, if it was a typo or what was happening. But I did hear that instead of doing 3 split, you know, a split 1, a split 2, and a champs all in the same area, I've actually heard that they might be looking at doing regional tournaments, meaning like majors, like a North America major, a European major, an APAC North major, an APAC South major, and then a champs. I don't know if that's going to be exactly the case, but it would be really, really huge if it was. And I would love to see that. And it is a big problem for people that want to watch, and it is a big issue for people that want to go to LAN as well. So that would be huge if they actually do that. Not sure if they're going to do that, and not sure what the deal is with South America as well. So just thought I'd throw it out there. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed. Take it for what you will. Take it, you know, let your imaginations go. I don't know what this big thing could be, but I was told that it was not in game. And like I said, one of the sources specifically told me that it was going to be major tournaments. I don't know if that's true or not, though. Honestly, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not taking anything for certain until I see it. Vosky also, just so we wrap the video up, another teammate looking for a Pro League team as well, basically to play in these Pro League qualifiers. I think Pro League is the goal. Obviously, this guy was in LCQ, great player, has a lot of respect from a lot of these pros as well. You know, Nice Week speaks very well of them, and Vosky is just a goat, man. I love watching his streams. The guy's just a very nice dude, and I hope the best for him as well. He's got the dedication, he's got the grind. We'll see how these teams obviously look into their year 4 experience coming up very, very soon after champs. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below about all the topics in today's video. Of course, make sure to like the video if you guys did enjoy, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date all things Apex Legends esports related. And until the next time, I will see you all later, Gators.